Today, we are going to go on a ride. We begin with an overview of this month. We're in Sagittarius, the month of December, and it's going to be an incredible one. The manner in which this unfolds is partially yet to be determined, or at least based in the factors I've been taught. But they've given me a lot of insight into what's happening. They're with me now. And I want to emphasize to you this is my greatest skill. If you don't see the connection from me to the temple itself, Thoth is with me. And so as I communicate, I'm a ray, I'm riding a wave that he sends through. It's like channeling, but I'm much more present. And he challenges me to be able to do this so I can communicate with you more clearly. And honestly, so I can become who I need to be to help make this world. This month is, in many respects, the tipping point that we've all been waiting for. The breakdown of one way of being and the advent of another. It's not going to be entirely clear in the moment, yet it's important that you interpret both global and personal events through this lens. Essentially, to the extent that you remain invested in the old way, you're going to have a very different experience than you will if you shift your heart, your mind, and your intentions into the new. Now, this isn't vague, so let's be clear. What's falling apart is a stability. It's a stability that's been necessary. And the simplest way to interpret this would be if you had two monsters running around in the world, it's better to pit those monsters against each other. When they're fighting with each other, they're not destroying as much. So we've been living in a world that was designed to channel the monstrous energies against each other. This is late stage capitalism. Early stage capitalism, we had to convince them to stop collaborating. Monsters used to collaborate more. In this world, we've been channeling them against each other in a stasis, in a way that ideally has resulted in less destruction. However, it came at the expense of the earth. So this is a simple measure. Simple. Are folks facing their karma or are they avoiding their karma? That's all it is. In every way that people avoid their karma, they have to offset it. They have to offset it against something. So much more than you want to know, you may well have been invested heavily in this system. And within this system, you're offsetting your karma by essentially channeling it into flow patterns that ideally break it down. Now, the truth of the matter is it doesn't feel good. Karma's momentum. You like feeling momentum moving through you. So in many ways within this karmic system, we've been dependent on the presence of an energy that we don't want. We like it, but we don't want it. And it's hard to know what it is without developing the spiritual tools of awareness that look into it more acutely. So, let's say you've been dreaming to be a millionaire. You've dreamed that your freedom and joy would be to have this abundance of cash and millions like nothing anymore in America. But imagine that the freedom and joy of having your time and the expenses to go where you want and do what you want and have a house a certain size. And you've conflated that with joy and freedom. And so the energy that moves through you is a desire to obtain a freedom that is yours, but you've conflated it into a system that channels your potential, your activity, your mind, your discipline. And if you buy into it thoroughly enough, you're actually wearing down your own karma. It's not as fun as you want it to be. It's not as joyful or free as you want it to be. This is the karmic system. This is the matrix. Now, this month, it's coming to a head. And the reason it's coming to a head is actually that in more ways than many people recognize, you all resented this matrix system. And you've resented it in a form that ends up fueling some of the monsters. So if you simply feel the restraint, you feel a restraint upon your dreams and desires, and you resent it, You may well think you're the good guy. You may well think it's righteous, but in a very realistic sense, you're not thinking clearly. If everyone was free in the capacity of a monster, we'd destroy the earth within a year. Everybody would eat meat all the time. Everybody would burn too much fuel. The waste, the abuse, the fraud, the lack of integrity, the lack of boundaries, it would disintegrate quickly. So what's happening in this month is that there's a breakdown of an old form of stability and an ushering in of a new one. And in order to shift into this new way, you have to appreciate that something very critical is occurring. There are few moments when we can release the worst. You came here with a lot of the worst energy. You have to trust and respect this. And this month, on the solstice, you can let go of some of the darkest energies you faced in your whole life. So leading up to that time, it is crucial that if you want to participate in this, you think very honestly about who you are and the stories you have told yourself. Because if you can do the work this month, you've got 3.5 weeks. If you can do the work, you don't even have half a week. You've got 3 weeks. If you can do the work to find honesty within yourself, are you carrying the worst with you, or have you really let it go already? Because right now, Gaia's saying, I'll take it. And she's saying, I'll take it for a very strict, clear reason. She has the opportunity to let some of it go completely. Now, it's hard for me to continue on this flow without getting sidetracked because there's so much depth around the points that I'm being asked to share today. So forgive me if I slow down and pause because I know I'm getting pulled out of. I want to tell you so much more than I can tell you all at once. I've already received the channeling for this week. It's really incredible. And part of the guidance is to give you preparation for it. And in this preparation, there's some explaining to do. And I have to stay within a certain range. If I go too far, I'm just going to confuse the matter. But the way they teach me, it's like I'm getting it all at once almost. It's like, I just understand. It's like, I'm in the understanding. And then I have to put it in this verbal flow. On this winter solstice, if you can be honest with yourself, you can let go of the worst. And when you do, it's really going to leave the earth. Now, truth be told, it won't all, because many of you aren't carrying things that are so bad that it has to leave the earth. But when you hold on to negative energies in one form or another, you have been holding what is the worst to you. So there is a resonance of your fear of what you've been holding that is fundamentally toxic. And you've been forced to hold it because it's been your responsibility. Essentially, in many, many ways, on many levels, we are forced to hold our own karma until we process it thoroughly. And in this holding, we are essentially wasting our own energy. We are forced to buffer our karma with good energy. So we have to take the impact and struggle within ourselves. And this churning breaks the karma down over extended periods of time. You don't really need to know more than that, but you need to appreciate this. Your fear of fear is indeed toxic. It's the base stuff that creates violence in the world. Because when you're afraid of fear, it creates a feedback loop, which ends up justifying all manner of terrible actions. You project on someone else. You are convinced that you have a right to respond, to protect yourself because the creature gets activated. You don't realize you're projecting, so you strike at your projection in this deep-rooted sense of pure justice. You think you have to protect yourself. But really, you're striking at something that, at the very least, you contributed to. This is the toxic stuff that the earth rarely creates a window for us to fully release. And I'm telling you, you can release toxic karmas that have lasted much of your lifetime this month. Now, what this is going to look like on the surface is a breakdown in certain stabilities. Now, as I introduced, the karmic system that we've been in, know it as the matrix. This matrix has functioned to channel, to control us. It's a terrible, terrible thing on a certain level. It's very frustrating, frustrating at best. It feels like we're enslaved because in many ways we have been. To be enslaved in this way is essentially drive your dreams into patterns where you never get quite as happy as you think you'll be. And that people emerge from this with a justifiable sense that they've been, they're getting sapped, they're getting consumed for their spirits getting tapped like a vampiristic dynamic. It's true. That's what this matrix is. And within this matrix, you can succeed based on the rules within the matrix that are capitalist hierarchies, but really you're not changing anything. You're just playing a role within the same system. Some people are going to win. It's up to you to be the one who recognizes that winning within this system is just a lateral advance. There's nothing fundamentally good about it. More money, more problems. You advance into a stratus where people are actually, in a certain respect, less heartful. They're more cutthroat. You still have the same range of stresses and anxieties. In fact, if you took an electromagnetic image of who you are and how you function, wouldn't look all that different perhaps than you did when you were younger and you had smaller amounts of money, smaller house, less prestigious car. Now, that's not to say there isn't value in becoming more economically liberated, but you have to do it with grace. Now, this month, a lot of spiritual candy will stop working. Now, I'm putting it in this form so you can recognize something that I'm about to teach you. It's really critical. For whatever reason, I haven't been invited, liberated, encouraged to share it before now, but it's aligning this month. Gaia guides this. Gaia guides nature and she guides the matrix. And I want you to think in two forms. There's a matrix of karmic digestion, and there's a lattice of the Gaian mind. And this lattice is designed to help you grow with a much deeper sense of liberation. Now, you're still within a structure, and if you're not careful, you will not be able to tell the difference between the Gaian lattice and the matrix of karmic control. First and foremost, please understand, Gaia created all of it. It's tempting to call this matrix evil. In fact, we were encouraged to. We were given these movies for a reason, in fact. But to call it evil, the very act of identifying the evil there is an externalization. So you're starting to project from the outset, and that is the point. Once you start projecting, you are essentially venting your own worst energies into this system that processes them. So as long as you're still producing them, you have to stay trapped. Here's the key shift. A lot of elements of the matrix are going to break, including your spiritual candy. Now, I emphasize that it's spiritual for a particular reason. You experience it as something direct. You love football. You love ice cream sundaes. You love porn. You love cigarettes. All of these things you're experiencing from Gaia. Gaia gave you these things. These things are intrinsic in the matrix, all of them. They're all addictions based in extremes and amplifying fundamental processes that are supposed to exist. Football in America, taken to the extreme, is the most volatile, violent game we allow, right? So it's bizarrely brutal. Like, the people who win at this game are so incredibly athletic. They're twice the size of any other person that you see walking down the street. Like, you don't have close to a prayer of competing with them in anything physical. ice cream sundaes. Look, I'm knocking down left and right because they're going to stop working. Sugar cane produces it like a stalk of sugar cane produces between a teaspoon and a tablespoon of sugar. Like the concentration of sugar necessary to make the sweets that are eaten these days is beyond absurd. The circuits have been fried. The thing to understand is that the same thing goes for all these different dynamics. Nicotine has been saturated, processed, recompiled, mixed with artificial flavors and heavily concentrated. Porn is like frying your system with the sexual dynamic, absent love, and seemingly under control. The critical factor to recognize is it's put in a form that you think you can push a button and make it happen. So it's offering control. All of these approaches are taking factors that are healthy in their root, and you might not agree, but they are. Sweet, sex, even different forms of drugs, including nicotine, sacred tobacco. They have their place. But when you hyperutilize them in the wrong ways and you channel them through the dynamics of the karmic matrix, meaning you're living in a system where you're not designing your life to get better. You're designing life in order to try to numb your pain. You're trying to offset. And this is a critical word to understand here. You're offsetting your karma rather than processing your karma. So you're unhappy, so you try to escape the unhappiness. When you function in this way, you're taking your essence, because you always get a little more essence every day. You get this little allowance that might decrease over time because you start, promising it in all sorts of different ways. But so that your usable energy gets less and less, but you still have a little bit, right? And you're working with this energy and you're dreaming of getting a cigarette in the face of your pain. You're dreaming of escaping where you are with these extremes, all within the karmic system. She's doing this for you. She's saying, okay, you want to use your dreaming. You want to use your sacred essence to pray, to escape. You can. You have that right. Now, if you're going to hate her because you're trapped in the matrix, you have to understand you're not really trapped. But the way out starts subtle. And it starts with a subtle awareness that you're always being given hints of how to change it. You're always being given a little breadcrumb trail of what you can focus on to begin to shift your attention into a healthier way. No one's stopping you. To learn to stop screaming at the walls and to sit still and to begin to feel the subtle resonance that will never be taken from you is always within your right. And this month you have more of a reason to, because what's going to happen is the basic elements, the palliatives that enabled you to offset your confusion and pain within the matrix, they're breaking. So what Gaia has done is she has actually given you spiritual candy connected with this or that, with a Sunday, with porn. She's done it. She's given it to you because it is the best way to temper you that has been available. Until you dig deep enough to say, I want to face my karma, I want to heal my karma. And you say it again the next day, and you say it again the next week, and you say it again 3 weeks later. You're consistent. You're manifesting a consistent response to the challenges in your life. And you don't have to be perfect. You mostly avoid freaking out and screaming at the walls and blaming someone else. Until you do this, it's better to offset you because you're going to be a terror. You're wandering around with this toxic energy just spewing out of you, resentment, blame. You see your shadow in every face that looks at you. People look at you neutrally. You see rage. You're projecting in a way that has to be tempered within the matrix. And if it's not tempered, you're going to be a destructive force that is absolutely not functional. So think about this. This month, I'm telling you, You might realize this already. Your games aren't working, right? Porn isn't relieving. Sugar doesn't do it, so you eat twice as much. This is what's called uh, an extinction burst. I don't know if you've heard this or I've mentioned it before, but when something ceases to work, it's like it's going extinct. Like there's something breaking down about a pattern. And so beings, animals, humans, we're animals, will just triple down on the old behavior because that's what used to work. So who's experiencing this? Like your addictions are just getting more pronounced. They're going through the roof. And that's happening because they're not working, and they're not working because Gaia is not putting her spiritual essence on top of them anymore. You've always been under the misimpression that it was the physical nature of whatever you were doing that made you happy. It wasn't. It was an alignment between her spiritual candy put on top of that. And it was her way of controlling you. Now, as soon as you start to recognize this, you have the opportunity to freak out or not. I'm here to help teach you why not to freak out. I got out a long time ago. So in a little bit, I'm going to tell you some of that story because it's a pathway out. But right now, we're going to wrap up this prediction because let me tell you, when the worst energy leaves, as it will on the solstice, there's going to be a tremendous breakdown triggered. Now, let's just look at this simple version. Imagine you're in a forest and there's a really terrifying creature living deep, deep, deep in the forest. It lives in a cave. It comes out when it wants to. This creature doesn't even have a name. This creature comes out and it terrifies all the grizzly bears. It terrifies the grizzly bears. So when it terrifies the grizzly bears do not go at this creature. So they go out in a different way and they're riding their fear. And so in order to escape their fear, they have to scare something. As soon as they scare something, that's something else. The beavers are now afraid of the grizzly bear. Let's say the mountain lions are now afraid of the grizzly bear. So the mountain lions treat the grizzly bear the way the grizzly bear treats that creature hiding in the cave. And then the beavers treat the mountain lions as if they're that terror. So it's a ripple effect. In order to find psychic stability, one apex predator scares the next level of predator, which scares the next level, which scares the next level. They pass it on. Ship rolls downhill. And if I tell you that that apex predator is somehow removed, whoa, what's going to happen? Now, the critical factor to appreciate here is that apex predator has never been physical. It's always been a psychic presence. In fact, it's been the collected fear. For all intents and purposes, you need to appreciate it like this: the collective fear, the apex fear of humanity. The apex, check how intense this is. The apex fear of humanity. I've been doing this for 5 years. Do you think I'd tell you this to get views? If I did, I would have told you this 5 years ago. The apex fear of humanity is leaving this winter solstice. And it's going with 3i Atlas straight out of the galaxy. Forgive me. Straight out of our solar system. It's not leaving the galaxy. Now, I've wanted to believe this for a while. They told me not to tell you because you could get yourself wrapped up in this process in the wrong way. So here's the immediate disclaimer. You don't engage 3i Atlas. You don't. You engage Gaia. Because as far as you know, you can't tell the difference between the worst and the worst. All right. So the worst to you is the worst. Let's say those mountain lions, they don't even know about that creature in the cave. They don't even know it exists. They're afraid of grizzly bears. When they encounter the grizzly bears, they're fearing the resonance of the fear coming through the grizzly bear. That grizzly bear is rechanneling the fear they felt in relation to the apex predator. So to be present with yourself is to be honest about your lack of awareness. You don't understand where you are in this chain of karmic reality. You don't need to. You need to be humble. So you go to the earth and you say, thank you. You overcome your resentment. In fact, you accept their apology. that it's been so hard and that you felt so controlled? How many times have you dreamed and not felt those dreams come true? How many times have you longed for something and not felt heard or honored? How many times have you strived to create something and watched yourself create a little bit less than what you were striving for? That's the karmic matrix. It's been wearing you down. And you can hate Gaia for keeping you trapped in this matrix. You can hate her. And when you hate her, please understand the function of the matrix is to digest your hate. So as long as you keep hating her, she'll cry. That's what she's doing behind. But there's a smaller version that will laugh at you to keep you channeling your hate into the system. That's how complex she is. And that's how functional this karmic matrix is. It's designed to process the hatreds. It's designed to teach you how to take responsibility for your energies before you vent them into the world. You have to get this big in your awareness in order to be at peace. You have to. And so in order to fully release the negative energies you've been bearing during this window of opportunity on the solstice, in order to fully release, you have to be deeply aware of whether you've been lying to yourself or not. Now let's look at how this works. There are a lot of sidetracks in this story. I keep checking in to make sure I'm supposed to take them. Feels like sidetracks. We're on the path. Imagine you had a terrible breakup in your youth. And it didn't happen to you. Just imagine somebody else. They had a terrible breakup. They thought they were going to marry this person, and they broke up with them, and they were borderline suicidal. And in their suicidal numbness, they got a new inspiration. They went to work on some project. But the critical factor is they didn't fully come to terms with the death of their dream. They didn't grieve it. They didn't dig into the feelings and stay present with their own heart and allow it to break and reform. They shifted their attention. And when they shifted their attention, they fundamentally distracted themselves from the old pain. They gave up a lot. They cut off a dream they shared with the other person. They cut off another dream. They stopped listening to the music that they loved together. They stopped wanting to go on vacation to the same places. All these things that worked for them as a person, they just cut everything away because it reminded them of the pain. And so they lost a lot more than that one person and that one dream. They lost a tremendous range of elements that made them who they were. And then they started something else, but it wasn't as fundamentally alive because they didn't process and grieve where they left fully. They just blocked it. Now, this is hopefully a dramatic example of a dynamic that goes on all the time. Our attention shifts from one thing that doesn't work or fails to another, but we don't fully digest and pay attention to the transition. And because we don't pay attention to this transition, and by every measure, I keep looking back at these things when I teach them. So because you haven't paid full attention to what you've left and you shifted your attention into a new, I'm going to work hard to be a stockbroker. I don't know. That's what distracts you, right? You're going to work hard to be a stockbroker because that last dream with this other person, you think it was naive now. Oh, you used to dream that you were going to, someday live in a small town together, build a small business that really helped take care of the community. But then you broke up with that person and you're like, I was naive. I was blinded by my youth. Life is hard. Life is brutal. I'm going to be a stockbroker. So you're lying to yourself. You're telling yourself you're over that old dream. You're not. You didn't do it. You didn't do the work. So now you have to, if you're really seeking to transition into this new era early with many of us, you have to be honest enough to dig underneath the surface of your decisions throughout life. And if you chose to marry someone who was not the right person for you without having grieved the person before because they were safe Well, you're going to have to look at that. Now, the beauty of this is you might have actually married the right person, but you didn't do it consciously. And because you didn't do it consciously, a part of you's in there saying, I didn't marry the right person. So a part of you made a compromise. Now, the secret truth is Gaia writes these stories. So it's likely this is a sacred soul who loves you to pieces from the ends of the galaxy. But you can't know that if you're holding lies. And the lies we hold are rarely as direct as completely false. What they are is they're denying the truth. They're just functioning to help us forget. And that's a lie. Make no mistake, that's a lie. Because you're not fully utilizing your energy and your spirit. And this is why the karmic matrix exists. It exists to process these lies. It exists to process these lies. But the way the karmic matrix works is it's channeling you into functional hierarchies. And the critical factor to get here is the hierarchies they don't matter at all. Meaning the person at the top of the hierarchy and the person at the bottom of the hierarchy are the same. There is no critical difference between who's at the top and who's at the bottom. All that matters is the character of the hierarchy. What is it a hierarchy of? So you can think of influencers in any form. I suppose I'm an influencer, right? You could think of influencers in any form as simply a representative of the subculture that follows them. They are simply saying, drink, smoke, eat this. They're just telling you what to do, but they're woven together by the same fundamental themes that you are. In fact, they're functioning to be the conductor, saying, now, everybody drink tonight. Everybody do this. They're giving you permission to be who you want to be anyway. They're keeping you in a coherence, in a vibe. So you might think that it's freedom to be that person, but really there's no difference. I mean, you develop some motivational skills, you develop some articulateness, you have some discipline. It's not inconsequential, but you haven't changed the nature of your life here on Earth. You've just become a champion of your life here, which can make it more difficult to change in certain cases. So to appreciate that all these hierarchies are held together by dominance is to recognize that they're actually kind of a low-level dream. All these hierarchies are held together by dominance. And that dominance is just like that forest. There's a forest with a scary, terrifying creature deep in the heart of it. Most of the creatures in the forest don't even know about that scary, terrifying creature, but the grizzly bears do. And the grizzly bears terrify the mountain lions, and the mountain lions terrify the coyotes, and the coyotes terrify the beavers and the deer. And there's this hierarchy of terror. That's what humanity's in. That's the karmic matrix. But then we numb it. Then you numb it with Sundays and porn and nicotine and alcohol. You numb it. You inject these streams, and you got to do it in a pattern because you're agreeing to take on fear, you're agreeing to take on pain, and you're not facing it. You're numbing it within the karmic matrix. And it only works because there's a dominance hierarchy. And that dominance hierarchy is here to prevent it from turning into chaos. And Gaia made it. She made it. She made this whole system. And she made this system with hidden ways out. So breathe in your heart with me. This is where it starts. Start in the heart. There's nothing I can give you which you don't already have. I can reignite what is already yours. When you experience it as if I'm giving it to you, that means it's likely you're a little bit cut off from yourself. But it's important for you to conceptualize, I am simply reigniting something that is you. You have the potential as a seed within you. You just might be giving those seeds away through the process of externalizing it and thinking it's someone else, thinking even perhaps it's me. And that's not a role I accept. Some people like playing that role. That's I'd say a more straightforward influencer role. They're saying, "Hey, I've got the duh, I've got the duh. I am this. Don't you want to be like me?" Well, you have to appreciate that could be healthy, just like something that's sweet could be healthy. But it's only healthy if you appreciate that it's already yours. It's just up to you to make this your priority. And this is the same way getting out of the matrix works. To get out of the matrix, it's rare that you simply just copy someone else. This is really specific, okay? This is the crux of the matter. The matrix designs everything in patterns. Patterning in a form that keeps you within controlled channels where your dreams are never going to be as pronounced as your reality. You'll always be dreaming a little beyond what you create. And the reason that's true is if you got your dreams, you'd unleash hatred because you haven't fully digested your hatred and your lies and your pain. So the critical piece here is to own it. When you own your hatred and your lies and your pain and your fear, you no longer need to be channeled into a fear hierarchy. And now's the time to get out because the linchpin has been removed. The core dominant terror in humanity that binds the matrix together is leaving. And there's going to be a split. And this split is so pronounced that some people are going into an entirely different timeline than others. And it's based on one simple theme. Do you own your karma or not? It is this stark. Are you going to own your karma or not? You notice we've been on a relentless path of own your karma this year. This whole year, it's been about own your karma, own your karma. They've been setting us up for this. Because in this divergence, some people are just not going to do it. And when they don't do it, they have to go into a sort of obsessed technology future. Now, let me tell you a crazy simple secret. There's all sorts of consciousness on Mars already. If you think Mars is one big rock that you could just go to, start over, start fresh, let me know how that works out for you. There's all sorts of consciousness there. We're just tuning into one frequency of Mars that's barren. That's it. And humans are going to be invited to go occupy that barren frequency. Going to be allowed to. It's going to be a little more weird than you would expect. A lot of things that start and mysteriously a bunch of people are dead and nobody knows why. Not so pleasant. But they'll succeed eventually. And over time, they will discover their one frequency among many there. And that will be the victory lap of the technology timeline split. And in this timeline that I'm thoroughly embedded in, and most of you are invested enough in to stay on. Holy shit, I can't believe we're this deep. We get to transcend the matrix now. So let me tell you how it works. I got out early and I earned this by what I'm being told. I did earn this karmically. So I got out 3 years out of college. I was set up to win all sorts of games in the matrix. I was getting visions. I was working for a .com startup. I was getting visions 10 years in the future of how technology would grow. I was seeing these things. From the first Palm Pilot, I saw the future of this. I could have made millions. Hands down, easy. I had plenty of connections, several friends who made lots and lots of money this way. And I didn't. I got off. 3 years out of college, I got off. And I said, this is not hard. This is not hard. Got myself one of these things. Can't recommend it enough. Got myself one of these. And I started doing this at work. Strongly encourage you to consider it. And as I did it, I couldn't care anymore about the games. They were Matrix games. I'd already watched the Yankees win the World Series 3 times. I I I didn't care anymore. None of it made sense to me anymore. Like, why? Why would I want to do it? So I could get opera tickets? Like, I'd already been to Broadway shows, so I could have a bigger apartment to have the same parties in. Like, I saw through the veils that those advances were essentially lateral. I wasn't getting more of the joy that was intrinsic. It was just the spiritual candy was shifting onto bigger goals. But the problem is it narrows in a hierarchy, right? So everybody can't win those games. In fact, it has to be sort of a steep incline to how many people lose. And your joy starts to become dependent on beating other people. And I saw it. To my credit, to my karmic credit, I saw it. So I got off. And when I got off, I got the message that you can replicate. It said, don't try to control how you get out. Pray to trust the path that's available to you. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do. This is your off ramp. You hold that prayer and it's terrifying. And you hold your chin. So we're going to do this right now. Focus on your chin. Now we use the floating jaw breath. So inhale, push out your jaw. Open mouth. Exhale, feel it float. So you're not just releasing the muscles, you're feeling it like free. Your jaw goes free. You're really releasing control. Keep doing that while I talk for another couple minutes. When your mind says, well, that person could do it because they had that skill, but I can't. When your mind says that person could do it because they inherited money from their parents, but I don't have that. When your mind says that person could do it because their partner supported them, but I don't have that. You're back in the matrix. You're externalizing. The point is, a path out is available for everyone if you pay your faith. You have to put all your spiritual essence into this. You have to say, I'm going that way. I'm going that way. I'm going that way so completely, I would get on a boat or a plane that I could no longer control and go that way. You're going that way so completely, you're getting on a white horse. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, you're getting on the horse and you're just holding on. And you're going to be taken to a place that you can't determine. The path out is not under your control. Your control is to choose it. Your control is to choose it and then focus your attention, your discipline, your daily prayers, your curiosity, your fascination, your hope, your inspiration. Every day is show me the next little secret breadcrumb that helps me understand what to do. And you're relentlessly focusing. And it's not the same hint that you got yesterday. And something will work for a little while and then it won't work anymore. And then you got to find how the trail is changing. And so what you need is this commitment to develop the depth of awareness to tune into the nuance. You start to catch it. You start to catch like a little web. You start to catch the hints. You're dreaming. You're making a dream catcher. You're becoming a spiritual dream catcher of this dream for the way out of the karmic matrix. And then periodically, you get these profound steps up. You find our practice. You learn the standing flower. If you haven't done this yet, do it. You memorize the key ring: heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, solar plexus, diamond eye, lungs, root, chin, navel, third eye, heart. You memorize it. You repeat it. You add the movements and you start doing it. And it works. And you're like, breath of life, you have something that works. But here's how it progresses. You do the standing flower, you get yourself attuned. You're getting yourself attuned with the guy in mind. You're honoring your body, you're honoring your spirit, you're aligning the vibrations, and your mind starts to get the guidance of what to do. and it says, walk down the street today. You need a walk, a breath of fresh air, and you bump into a friend, and the friend tells you about someone who's coming to give a presentation this week, and that someone is giving a presentation on how to realign feng shui your home, and you feng shui your home, and it realigns the spiritual flow in your house, and you wake up feeling a little better, and it helps you do your practice that morning. And this continues. You get a hint, it's time to take a walk. You take the walk, you recognize the instinct, you walk down the road, you meet a friend. They just broke up with someone. They're sad. They need you. So you call and you cancel a meeting you have, and you stay with them for a time and talk to them. They need you. Or you don't take that walk. You do your practice, but you have a hint to walk, but you feel guilty. It's like, I got to get this done. You don't take it. You didn't follow your instinct. You broke it. You broke it. You're out of the vibe. You're out of the vibe. Now you flip back into responsibility mind, but it's not really what you should be responsible for, because you haven't shifted your responsibility to the dream. Your responsibility flipped back to fear. And when your responsibility flips back to fear, it has to get channeled into the karmic matrix. It has to, or your fear is going to get stronger, and it's going to be louder, and it's going to make the world a worse place. Can you forgive Gaia for breaking your dreams? Acknowledging that you're the one that didn't get up and take that walk when you were supposed to. But you get a chance the next day. So the next day you get up and you do your practice, and you're in harmony, and you're frustrated, and you think, I should do 10 squats. But you get distracted, you don't do it, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to have some hot chocolate. Now look, there's a place for some hot chocolate occasionally, but you didn't do your 10 squats. So you tried to replace your 10 squats with hot chocolate. Now you're in a glunkier state of mind. Now a friend calls and they say, hey, could you come meet me for coffee? I just broke up. I need your attention. And you say, that's some toxic energy. I can't be around that right now. But you're the one that didn't take care of yourself. If you had, you might have the strength to realize you could hold space for them in a sacred way, love them, and be left even better for it. The path out keeps going. It's forgiving. You don't ruin it by slipping. I've slipped so many times. You get to succeed 30, 40% of the time during phases and still substantially enhance your life, but it keeps going. And you don't get told when it's over until it's well over. You don't cross a finish line. You find out you're 20 miles into the right space before you're told you're safe. That's how it works. In fact, before you're told that you're safe, you're told you have 3 people to take care of today. Will you do it? Because you know how to help them. You know how to help them stay attuned. You know how to help them stay aligned. And if you say, no, I have to take care of myself, it won't work. But if you take too much energy and try to give it to other people, it also won't work. The path out is about alignment and balance. There's so many ways to lose alignment. There are so many ways to lose your attunement. It's a whole new world. You don't get this list of do's and don'ts. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't eat ice cream. Don't ever have sex. No. If you smoke too much, you should stop smoking. If you eat too much sugar, you should stop eating sugar. If you have been addicted to sex and used it to distract yourself and don't know how to be loving when you're sexual, then you should stop for a little while. And then you should try to re-engage it with health again, or you're going to lose something fundamental to your nature. It's about balance. This is a unique path for everyone, and yet there are so many factors that are deeply similar. You're slipping through the cracks of a system that seems like a cell. You're slipping through the hidden spaces that seem like a maze of technological terror. And you're sneaking through in just the right way because you're learning to listen, first to hear, then to hear, then to hear your spirit talks to you every day. You learn to tune in and you put this high on your priority list. I know how to be quiet when it's time to be quiet. I know how to recognize when the tension builds. A lot of the reason I say many of the right things to share with you is because I'm following the flow of spirit most of the time. If I accumulate too much anxiety while I'm talking, I feel it in my throat. And I calm down and I put this as a central priority. In fact, I put going live on YouTube as a central priority years before I was making money this way. And I did it the next week, and I did it the next week, and I did it the next week because my throat taught me to. And my throat taught me what to say. And I trusted that my throat chakra was a reflection of the spiritual guidance that connected me to the Gaian mind. And so, as someone who works every day, to retune myself to the Gaian mind, and to recognize that the tensions that betray that I've gotten out of tune, and to learn how to accommodate, to tend, to shift those tensions, I learned to stay. Thank you so much, Sean. I deeply appreciate you. It's so interesting to me when the people who work the hardest give the most. That's what I found over time. When I used to respond to the squeakiest wheels, they were often very full of doubt, aggression, cynicism, skepticism, and I would respond to them because I wasn't fully in faith within myself. So I was attracting people who didn't trust me because I didn't trust myself. And then over time, I trust it more, and I get people who are so deeply respectful, and they continue to give. Thank you, Sean. Donations are greatly accepted and appreciated. I'm still, we're not even making enough money to live, my family. We are very frugal. We've been spending for years building this dream. We trade our house on a home exchange system in order to drive to other places on vacation. We mostly buy groceries when we go. I mean, I'm not going to overdo it. We make life work. We make it work well. We have a lot of joy, but we can't sustain it. We're still losing money. So when people give, I am grateful. More importantly, when you sign up for one of our memberships, it works even better. This is the interesting part of the systems we're in. We're supposed to use them. I didn't believe that for a long time. When I rejected the matrix when I was 25 and I'm 51, when I rejected it, I didn't want to be a part of it at all. I got very frugal. I took donations of clothes from people, a bike, 2 cars. I eventually let go of cars. They're way too expensive, even if they're given to you. I inherited $2,000 once, made it last for half a year. I was very precise and systematic about how I developed an appreciation for this world. If you go visit Cuba, they keep everything working because for decades, they didn't even have exposure to the outside world because the US was embargoing them. So they actually kept their cars working. Our cars break down in the United States, we just throw them out, get another one. It's absurd. The mentality of this matrix is designed to process bad energy. It's not designed to be efficient. It's designed to put fear in check. When you start to do that yourself, it's difficult, but it's worth it. How are we doing? Look at that. Went for quite a while. I appreciate your likes. Thank you so much. I love I want to break into a new zone next year. So I want you to know we're launching initiatives to grow here, and if you know you can help, please do. Ultimately, we're building something that serves everyone. We are getting multiple forms of guidance at the same time these days. We're tuning into the Gaian mind most effectively, and make no mistake, this is not a vague experience. There are guides. This is the language is so beautiful. There are guides that give guidance in the Gaia dance that help us stay in tune with the Gaian mind. And when your mind is in tune with the Gaia in mind, you continuously hear these guides and you develop an awareness of who they are. You develop a sense of their personality. They have identities. And in an extraordinary range of ways, they're more real than you or I. When you're asleep, when you're still in a hazy dream state, it's important to recognize when other beings are more aware, more conscious than you are. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to become aware of their presence. It's beautiful to realize they want us to trust each other so we can functionally keep each other in tune, in harmony, so we can love ourselves and each other through tremendous transformation, healing, and the advent of an incredible level of dreaming, of prayers that are better for all of us. When we witness each other's prayers and we help check in and attune and believe and uplift, it's easier to believe in each other. So if you want to help us, please step up, speak up. Now's the time. We need you. There are some of you who are so beautifully present and aware. You make precise, intense, honest, insightful comments. I know it's time for you to come closer. Now's the time to throw down, because this month is deeply transformational. The linchpin message, for which you have to stay the whole hour to get, is that the most intense, terrifying human fear is leaving now. It's part of a bifurcation where there's a timeline split. You've heard about this from many, right? We're articulating it in a unique way right now, but many people are talking about this because the guides are telling all of us. And in this timeline split, there's going to be a technological emphasis in one whole wing. And now, in the big picture, it's a side story. It's a little loop. A lot of people are going to go on this loop because they're not willing to face their own karma. So they want the right to dominate nature, which they do by overemphasizing technology and human production. Now, ironically, in the process, they create robots that end up sort of controlling them. This is not a future we're all going into. We're going to see the overlap for a while. We've got these robots. We've got these, I don't like the term AI, but collective intelligence mediated by technology. In this collective intelligence, if you try to stay in a stronger relationship to the technological collective intelligence than you do to the spiritual presence that's watching you through the Gaian mind, you have to go on a side story for an extended period. The critical factor to appreciate here is the Gaian mind is far more advanced than anything we're ever going to produce through humanity. The entire side story of the timeline split that's underway is predicated on people denying the presence of Gaia, denying her conscious presence, along with the conscious presence of millions of beings who maintain the Gaian mind, the Christ consciousness grid that is inviting us into a new stage of humanity. It ends up being remarkably practical. In order to deny all that, they have to be loud. They have to make their commercials fast. They have to make their technology more full of lights. They have to kill more nature. They have to cut more trees. They have to block it out so you can live the whole day without seeing anything natural other than another human who are no longer really particularly natural because you're eating plastic. You know, they find plastic in brain neurons these days. The more artificial you make yourself, the less you can hear. And that's the point for many people. They're going in this side story because they don't want to face their own karma. So they're gathering together to create a gigantic lie about human power. It's a huge lie. None of those inventions actually came strictly from humans. They were all given with divine inspiration by Gaia, who gives them the right to have their side story because they're not ready to complete their karma. Do you really want to hang out with them? I strongly encourage you to get off their boat and pray for how to tune with the Gaian mind. It'll give you a unique path. And as you do, you'll be present in this world where the dominant predator is gone. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The human grizzly bears are going to go crazy. I apologize to grizzly bears for using this metaphor. Really, the humans that occupy this space are these dominating assholes who insist on getting paid 1,000 times their base employees. 1,000 times their base employees. For what? For what? Do they really think they're going to be happier? It makes you feel ill to feed off the pain of so many human beings. They're going to go crazy. Over the course of the next 3 years, they're going to go really crazy. It's going to be deeply disturbing to watch. And it's important to appreciate how and why this is happening. I'm going to give you an update in January for the whole next year, for 2026. We're going to work with these year cycles. Really, it's more appropriate to treat it as starting on the solstice, but we'll work with what it is. Understand, these sub-monsters are going to go crazy because what they effectively sense is that maybe one of them could become the new apex predator, but it won't work. It won't work. Gaia is no longer going to hold space for it. So they're going to implode. They're going to take each other down. And you're going to maybe take sides with some of them, and that'll be okay. I just encourage you not to invest too much in it. Understand what's happening. The karmic matrix is letting you go if you will follow. It needs to be your entire focus. On the solstice this year, I urge you to be ready for a big change. Next week, we will talk about how to prepare. Thank you. I'm going to tune in, see if I missed anything critical. They're saying I got down what they asked me to get down. So the real exchange is energetic. I hope you understand. I'm a conduit. It's an honor. It's enough. I'll see many of you in lightning sessions. Next year, it's going to be $34 a month. So if you sign up now, I told you I wouldn't warn you again. You can sign up now if you still want to at the old rates. You'll keep them. Lightning sessions in the sanctuary in a couple minutes. See you soon. Much love.